Hello everybody and welcome to this technical analysis video by Aggregated Finance. My name is Zach and it's my pleasure to share my analysis of the crypto markets with you. One thing to point out before we get into things, the contents of this video do not constitute financial nor investment advice. The analysis presented is for educational purposes only, and Aggregated Finance is not liable for any losses incurred as a result of this video. Any trading done following the analysis made in this video is done entirely at your own risk. Okay, so let's get into things. We are looking at the daily chart of Bitcoin, and we can see today we had some superb action. Price moved above the daily 50 moving average, which is the yellow line. We've got a nice green bar at the moment and it's still continuing to go higher. This bodes very well for Bitcoin. What we need to see is price maintain above the 50 moving average, and as long as price holds above the yellow line, the 50 moving average will then start to curve upwards, and as long as we remain above that, that is bullish for Bitcoin. Now let's take a look at the SPY, which is the ETF that tracks the S&P 500. This is the daily chart. We are getting bullish signals in the market. We tested the low, and the low held, although intraday we were below the low of January. We've got this reversal bar, and we have got another green candle today in today's performance of the S&P 500. Some of you might be wondering, if we're looking at the crypto market, why are we so interested in the SPY and the S&P 500? Basically, it sets the tone for the equity markets, and of course that extends to commodities and also to cryptocurrencies. So it's vitally important we see what's going on there. While I'm here, I'm also going to look at the Nasdaq daily chart. Again, we've got similar action there. Now, if you notice on these two indices, we did make intraday lows last week on Thursday, but going back to the crypto market, we can see that price never made a new low when looked at in reference to the low of January. We did not get anywhere near this low, and that told me that while the other markets were sinking, albeit intraday, and making new lows, Bitcoin did not do that, and that would signal to me that if the equity markets bottomed, that when they go up, Bitcoin will also rise. And so that's what we are seeing here. We are seeing relative strength. My initial target for Bitcoin will be initially to this area here, and again, as long as we remain above this 50 moving average, the yellow line, that will set a bullish tone for Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Ethereum now and see if we can see any similar signal there. Okay, a very similar setup. We've got this green bar here, today's move, and although we're not above the 50 MA, we would anticipate that if Bitcoin continues higher, that Ethereum should do the same. Once we're above the 50 MA, again, let price consolidate for a day or two, and then hopefully we will get higher prices. Something I like to do is look at weekly charts. And we can see here something very telling. We held this low of January and we are going higher. Now, looking at the weekly chart for Ethereum, the 50 MA on the weekly time frame is still pointing upwards. That tells us we are still in a medium term uptrend. So the longer term stance that we're holding at the moment is that Ethereum is in a medium term uptrend. Let's take a look at Bitcoin and look at the weekly chart on Bitcoin. Chart will display correctly. So on Bitcoin, we've got a slightly different view here. The 50 MA is starting to turn downwards. So we have to take things one day at a time and see how things pan out. Notwithstanding that, on the shorter time frame on the daily chart, we can see this is very positive action on the daily chart. So as long as we remain above the 50 MA, that yellow line, eventually the weekly 50 MA will also start to turn upwards. Now let's take a quick look at the weekly chart of the SPY, which is the S&P 500 ETF. The 50 moving average is still pointing upwards. We are still in a medium-term downtrend. It looks like this is just a short-term correction. We had a low in January, we made a low last week on Thursday, and things look like they want to go higher. This is a weekly chart bottoming tail, which tells us the most likely move now will be to the upside. So a rising tide lifts all boats. That should continue on and be the case with the cryptocurrencies as well. Let's look at the ETF, which tracks Bitcoin. This is GBTC. It's not the spot chart, it's the ETF. But sometimes on ETFs you can see levels that you can't see on the spot price. So again, we are moving higher today, and we really want price to get above this 50 moving average, and once we consolidate above there, that would bode higher prices. Let's look at Ethereum. Very similar case there. We've had a reversal bar, and so it looks like price wants to go higher. Something else I'd really like to show you, although it's not related to the crypto markets, but it's a very, very important lesson in technical analysis. If one looked at the news over the weekend, there was an oil refinery in the Ukraine that was blown up. I mean, the news looked pretty grim. Anyone would have thought that, you know, that would force up oil prices, which, while they were up to date, they did not make new highs. This is the USO, the ETF that tracks the crude oil price, and the USO was up just 2.25% today, 2.55%, 2.5%. It did not make new highs. Now, let's look at a weekly chart now of the USO. What we're seeing here, this is the ETF, so it's only during market hours that it's showing us the movements in price. We've got a gap here, and this illustrates the point I was making. Sometimes on the spot charts, you will not notice levels that you can only see on the ETF chart. So we've got a big gap here, and this is a weekly chart of the USO. So now that price has come up and sort of what's known as completed what's known as a gap fill. A gap fill is a very strong level of support or resistance. In this case, price is going upwards to fill the gap, and that is now resistance. At the same time, we have a descending 200 moving average on the weekly chart. That is a two-factor setup to tell you that oil is going to top out here. And lo and behold, looking at the news, over the weekend, you would have thought oil was just going to rocket and make new highs. It did not do that. It ended the day up just 2.5%. And this really shows what we can gather from technical analysis. Wow, look at this, guys. I'm looking now at the monthly chart of the USO. Went into this pivot low here, and we are also into the descending 50 MA on the monthly chart. So that tells us oil will be topping out here. Now, why am I showing you the chart of oil? I just want you guys to be aware that in technical analysis, we turn off the news, we don't watch the headlines so much, we're aware of them, but we don't place too much importance on them. We follow what the chart tells us price is likely to do. So if we go back to the crypto charts now, we can see we've got this green bar here, and the initial target will be something around the $45,000 level, and then we just have to wait and see and take it day by day. Ideally, for higher prices in Bitcoin, I want to see price above the 50 MA. I want to see some consolidation bars for 2 or 3 days going sideways, and then perhaps we can look to get back towards the 50,000 level. Let's look at the Ethereum price, which you can see here. Again, a very similar thing we'll want to see. We want to see price get above the 50 MA, and then we have a good chance after consolidating for a few days to get up to the $3,500 level. Alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. That brings the analysis video to a close, and this was the analysis for the 28th of February 2022.